Hello and welcome to Break Even by Breakfast on the accounting channel with me, Mark Sweetman. On this show, we interview successful startups to find out how they did it. My guest today is Patrick Liddy. He is the founder and customer success manager of a company called UtilityAR. UtilityAR builds augmented reality software for industry to help workers get the job done. Hi Patrick, thanks for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Great. Can you introduce yourself and tell us what UtilityAR is?
Sure. We encountered augmented reality glasses. So to give you an idea, this is a pair of augmented reality glasses. And I'm not sure if you can see on the video here, but I can see you. These are clear, transparent glass, though they're a little bit shiny. And information can be projected on the glass so I can see the real world. And I can also see digital information at the same time.
So what is it showing you about me right now?
Pardon?
What is it? Is it showing you anything about me or your computer right now?
Well, I haven't switched it on to tell you the truth. But the type of information that you could see at the very basic end is you could imagine having your Twitter feed here on the thing. And then at the more extreme furthest end from that, you could have a bunch of holograms similar to what you see in virtual reality. However, they would be interfacing with the real world in a real way. So the forward-facing cameras mean that they can see, and they could notice that that's a table in front of me. Sorry, you can't see, but I assure you there's a table here. So if I had a virtual object, like let's say a virtual ball, and I was to throw it, it would bounce and it would understand there's a table there, so it should bounce on that table as opposed to go through it. And those are the two extremes. You can have basic 2D content like we have now, or you can have these immersive objects which understand the real world and interact with them. So when I saw these things, I mentioned before I've done an energy efficiency thing before. That was very much a company for building software for large industrial energy users, factories. That's the type of guy I am. And when I saw these, I went, oh, these are so going to be applicable in industry. So I started this company, which builds augmented reality software for industry.
Perfect. And that looks like a pretty nice piece of tech. Like it looks very, very nice and sleek. I'm wondering, what did the MVP look like?
The MVP of those guys. So sorry, just to be clear, I'm sorry. So this is a Microsoft HoloLens. It's made by Microsoft.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We build software which runs on this.
Okay. But what did the
give you some more examples, just as we're going through glasses. This is a similar thing made by Epson, the printer company, or in this case, more the projector company. And the same thing is happening. This is clear glass, and I can see information projected on the glass. There's a forward-facing camera. This is a much less powerful thing. If this is a gaming PC, this is a tablet. Okay. And it's for seeing less complex things. So the example of the ball bouncing, you could do with the HoloLens. You couldn't really do with this, but you can do an awful lot of useful things you might want. Realistically, in 2 to 3 years, if people ever start commuting to work again, instead of walking down the street with their phone sticking out like this and reading their phone, they'll be wearing something a bit trendier, but will have the same functionality as this. And they'll be seeing the content that they see in their phone now floating in front of them, and they can interact with it while actually they're looking forward and are much safer than the way they are now.
So we'll all be Geordie LaForge, basically.
We'll all be Geordie LaForge. That's right. Well, hopefully we'll have actual sight as opposed to him.
Yes.
And then this is a slightly different variant, which is this is called a RealWear pair of glasses, and you can I guess this would be maybe I don't know what movie, but so here I've got a little screen here in front of my eye, and though it sounds ridiculous, a 1 centimeter screen placed here looks quite well when you get used to it, and you can sort of glance here and see what's happening on the screen, and it's got the forward-facing camera. So it's the same functionality. So all of these things, the commonality of them is they are a computer or a tablet that is mounted on your head and leaves you hands-free while giving you access to the information that you need to get your job done. So what we're building is the software that you need to get your job done. Okay. And I suppose the starting point of that is if you're a worker, an industrial or maintenance worker, your job is firstly and foremost following procedures. So if it's to maintain the air handling unit for the factory, there is a 50-step process that you should do. And we allow them to see that content on any of these types of glasses. Imagine an IKEA how to assemble the set of drawers procedure, except slightly snappier. We generally would have video of how to do a task playing in 50 steps. You can watch 10-second clips on how to do each step, or doing video calling. So similar to how we're on a video call right now, video calling in these things mean that the person on the computer end can see what the forward-facing camera is seeing on the glasses and can draw annotations on it. So can draw arrows and circles around, okay, have a look at that thing there. Will you turn that knob clockwise? No, this is what I mean by clockwise, not the other clockwise. And press the green button. This is what I mean by the green button. That's the red button. That sort of thing is clarified in one of these with these tools.
That's great. And when was your launch and what did you do for it?
So I suppose my approach to startup is very much get out there and give the customer something and learn how wrong it is. So we soft launched from perhaps 2 months after founding the company. We built the most basic piece of software. We found the friendliest customer we could find, and we got going with them.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
And so that is to say, we are approaching 3 years old, and we have our first users who, in fairness, they did give us credit card details, but only for a very paltry amount. They have been on the books for 2.5 years. That said, the real scale up is happening over the last year, where we're gradually getting to the needs of enterprise customers. So different from a lot of your listeners or viewers, our business is selling to enterprises. So big companies who care about network security and ISO 27001 standards and all this dull stuff that is very important to the large industry.
Helping a client with ISO 27001 yesterday, so I know all about that dull stuff.
Well, I'm sorry for your trouble.
So how many users do you have now?
So we work with 50 enterprise customers at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is generally starting from an Irish base, but in practice, the nature of this product is it's automatically international because the people who care are large industry. They're the ones who are very procedure centric in the first place, and they are international. So they want to share information across borders. So to give you an example, we're working with one pharmaceutical company in Ireland. We then moved on to start working with their counterparts in Madrid. This morning, I had a call with their counterparts in Singapore, and we're also talking to their Swiss site and now another Irish site of that business. So it's because we sell to multinationals, you automatically become multinational.
Yeah, that's great as well, because you don't have to find that client again in another country. It's sort of, I assume it makes the sales process somewhat easier in terms of going global. Yeah.
So it is, look, there's swings and roundabouts. It's good because if you can get the customer, then you have better growth potential. It's bad because you are competing on a global scale. So we are competing with our Singaporean counterpart because of this, where in the past, if it was just a national product, that would not be on the cards, so it's great. It's challenging to support them. Like fundamentally, I'm talking to a guy in Singapore, which are a terrific number of hours removed from ourselves. The good thing is that the discussion about should we visit the site is gone away now. No one expects you to travel. The world, everyone's equal. The bad thing is he's thinking about, can an Irish company really provide them support, because their 9 o'clock in the morning is our 3 o'clock in the morning or worse. I didn't even look up the number of hours difference.
It's bad though.
It would scare me.
Yeah. And that's funny you mention here, because presumably that Singaporean competitor now competes for even the Irish business.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. If the Singaporean competitor is successful and sells to the Singaporean office, and they do, there's something about their product which is perceived as better, then my Irish customer is at risk.
Yeah, which wouldn't be the case if you weren't global. So yeah, there's positives and minuses, and for being that type of global firm from the start.
That's right.
What channels did you successfully or unsuccessfully use to find your audience, or find your audience right now?
Sorry, say that again.
What channels did you successfully or unsuccessfully use to find your client base?
So our product is innovative and cool and sexy. We do the least sexy thing with a sexy product, as we say, right? We do really boring stuff. However, what the internet shows you is that there are geeks for everything. So what we have to do from a marketing standpoint is to create content which will get the attention of our potential user. And for us, what that means is videos on LinkedIn. So we're an enterprise product. People do not want to see our product on their Facebook feed. They don't want it on their Insta or their Snapchat or any of those cool and trendy things. However, on LinkedIn, it makes sense. So we market quite a bit on LinkedIn with videos. And if you see one of our videos on your LinkedIn, you'll see in the first 3 seconds, we show you the product, because that's what's going to sell you. I mean, if you're selling on any of these, selling with video, you've got to perceive that someone is going to skip past your video within 3 seconds, and you've got to show them the thing that's going to make them pause and look a little bit more at your product. And that has been reasonably successful. But I mean, anyone who engages with LinkedIn in any way will tell you it's frighteningly expensive. It is an expensive platform to market on. But then after that, like I'm sort of old school and a believer in putting in the hard work of identifying who your customers are, making a big long list, researching how to contact those people, and getting in front of them in the best way you can. And that is really how we get our business.
That's good advice. And then just to move on to the financial aspects of running a company, and I just want to talk a bit about revenue models. What is your revenue model, and why did you decide on that model?
Sure.
If it's kosher to talk about.
Oh no, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. So we aspire to being a SaaS company. That is to say, we should charge a monthly fee for the software that we provide to our customers. And the reason that's attractive is a number. Firstly, it means that our customers are buying into the idea that the product will continually get better. For a startup, that's kind of, all you've got going for you is the customers can see that you're nimble and you're creating better things all the time. So we can continually provide them with the new stuff. If they had paid us and were gone, then it would be harder for us to engage with them to give them the updates and improved software that we sell. Thanks. The second thing about SaaS is it's a low commitment for the customer. So on day one, they're not giving us a terrific amount of money. And that is comforting when you're engaging with a startup like us. And the third thing is SaaS is the only fundable business type in the world of VC. So if your business you think requires funding, you've got to ask a VC friend or anyone who's any experience of this sort of thing, what types of business get funded, and you'll find that 90% of them are SaaS businesses. In practice, because what we sell has a hardware component and is something completely new, and the type of customer we sell to, the nature of them is that they want us to provide a full package. So we often buy the headsets and resell them for a small margin, but then the more important thing is we provide professional services to help the customer train their staff and integrate our software and systems in their factories. So if I brought this headset to your apartment, we'd connect it to Wi-Fi within 30 seconds. If I bring it to a pharmaceutical plant in Cork, connecting it to the Wi-Fi may take several days because of the nature of their security. They don't make it easy for new and strange things to be connected to their network.
Okay, yeah, I can see that would be a challenge for sure. But it makes total sense that they would want it to be highly secure, especially if it's new and nobody knows what it's about.
That's right.
So did you seek out finance or did investors find you?
So one of the benefits of being a repeat offender at this startup game is I perhaps know the venture capital opportunities in Ireland reasonably well. There's not a lot of them, so it's not hard to know it all. So in this company, investors from my previous company came back again and invested again.
Okay, nice. So there was already a sort of relationship there.
There was already a relationship. I mean, it's not like they're complete pushovers, but nevertheless, it's a good starting point. I mean, if you look into any advice on investment, you'll see that people say they invest in the team, not in the idea. So if you go about raising investment, all the questions will be about your idea, and none of the questions will really be about you. But don't misunderstand what's happening. Really, what's happening is you're being judged. So they'll ask you about your ideas and your growth plans and all this sort of stuff. Actually, what they're judging is you. Because saying, oh, I'm ex-Facebook, that doesn't really get you, that's great. That's a good start. But really what they want to understand is, are you a credible person who's going to stay at this and make this happen? Because like the default setting in startup is failure. So what you're asking to achieve is the exception. And to achieve the exception, you have to, be incredibly lucky. That's the first thing, but also you have to be committed in a irrational way.
So when you say they're judging the team, are they judging you on your confidence, on your capabilities, or is it your commitment? Do they want to see, that you've quit your job and that you're going full steam ahead with this, regardless of getting any investment, that you just kind of plow on and continue investing your own time and resources into it?
So it's a combination of those things. So first of all, yeah, if you haven't quit your job, you're not investable because you're not willing to invest in your own business, your own self, with your own sweat and blood.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish I could advise people to stay in their jobs, and I do actually. I would advise people the right thing to do is stay in your job and keep that funding yourself. But if you want to raise money, then you need to quit your job.
Yeah.
Okay. No one will give a part-timer money. Sorry, I'm speaking in broad no ones, and of course, I'm sure there's exceptions to that rule. So, forgive that. And then what are they looking at? Well, I think first of all, that you have the credibility to do it, that your plan is a credible one, that they believe that you could actually achieve this. And definitely it is a perk to believe that you have the tenacity to carry on in the face of terrible odds against you. So I've heard people say that the best founding teams are where they are software engineers, because you can believe that when they blow the money that the investor has given them and they have run out of money, they can still keep going and live on ramen noodles for an extended period of time and keep pushing the product forward. So what the investor is getting is they're getting a double dip. They're getting the chance that the money they give will get the company to success, but they also know that even if that doesn't happen, that this sucker will continue to work and get the company to a successful point in their own discomfort, you know? Yeah.
And I can see that that's because their own time is actually worth quite a lot. You know, that if you didn't have that technical founder, you would have to pay for it, and that would cost the company.
You're completely right. I mean, fundamentally, if you are thinking about starting a company, you could just straightforwardly ask yourself, over the next 5 years, what is my salary expectation in my current job? And let's say that is 300,000 euros, let's say, okay? So assuming you take no salary, then you are investing 300,000 euros. If you're going to take 100% salary, well, good luck to you. I don't know how you're managing that. And if you're going to take 50% salary, well, then there's 150 grand effective investment that you're putting into the whole thing.
Yeah, in sweat equity, as they call it. Yeah. In sweat equity. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. The unfortunate truth is, you know, probably at the point that you're at, you've already put in a terrific amount of part-time hours into the whole thing. And in truth, if you're going to succeed, I don't think there's any example of people who work 9 to 5 and succeed. Because as I said, what you're aspiring to is not a natural outcome. It's an exception. And exceptions are rarely achieved by standard application.
And just to move on to non-financial aspects of the business, and these are a bit sort of aloof questions. So what's your startup dream team? If you could pick a dream team for a startup, what would it be?
So I think a savant at, sorry, okay. So first of all, a savant at product creation, okay, whatever that product is, be it swim instructor, this person is the best swim instructor in the world, or be it software programmer, the best software programmer in the world, and can create unreasonable levels of achievement in a short space of time, so that when you identify that you've gone down the wrong road and you need to pivot, you can do that in a time manner that's plausible. I mean, a lot of people have gone down the wrong road, and when they realize they've gone down the wrong road, they don't have the engineering or the product, the ability to change course. Okay. And then the second aspect, and perhaps the one that's unfortunately more in short supply, is business acumen. So I think sometimes people who start businesses are in love with their product, and they forget that what you're doing is not bringing a product to life. You're starting a business. Bringing a product to life is cool, but it's not starting a business. So the actions that you take need to be very business orientated. You've got to cynically say, yes, this product would be better if it had this feature or that feature, but that is not the priority. The priority is getting to market, or the priority is adding these other features which are less cool, but will make the business more successful, or allow us to raise funding, or do whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
So
how do you deal with feature requests? Speaking on product, if you get feature requests, and how do you typically deal with them?
So we sell to a relatively small number of customers. 50 is a tiny number. If you compare it to a more consumer-oriented software or product, which is going to be selling in thousands, and their challenge is much harder. For us, we listen to what the request is, and then our thinking is about how many of our other customers do we perceive would want this feature. And if there's multiple, then it's a yes, we'll go ahead with it. Or how critically important is this particular customer to us? So the honest truth is, the most important customer can demand changes, and we might go with that. But more often, like in almost all cases that I can think of, all that's happened in feature requests it's changed the order of priority of the features, as opposed to creating new requests for features, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, and so yeah, you're sort of trying to see what's the most in-demand feature request, and start there basically in implementing that. Yeah,
that's exactly right. So, like, I mean, our features to be built whiteboard, I think it does contain every possible permutation of idea of feature that we could plausibly think of. We have a vision of what the customer actually needs. So very often in a sales meeting, people ask for features which are not important at the beginning. They need to focus, so with our product, because it's a new user paradigm, the most important things are things that will help the user use the product. They're not baubles of coolness. They are the basics of getting up and running. And we get asked for baubles of coolness in sales meetings, and it's easy for us to say, yes, we will deliver that if you want it. The reality is they never do. They want, when we get to the actual usage, people want us to simplify the user interface for their customer or for their staff. That's always what they wind up wanting, and that's great, because that's what we have as our primary directive. Is these things, as cool and sexy as they are a new user interface. And if you, the watcher, you might think, well, I'm a geek and I could figure that out and I want all the complexity. You're right. But my customer isn't a geek. My customer is a maintenance man who doesn't particularly like that he's forced to have a smartphone. Never mind a fandangle thing like this. They buy into it because we make it so easy for them, and it makes their job easier in the end of the day.
Great. Do you find yourself getting distracted in your business or with other, living life, and how do you deal with these distractions?
So possibly, if I've had a bit of success, it's probably, I would say it's the most important thing is prioritization and focus. Unfortunately, particularly where a company is technically led, it's easy to conclude that the problem is some technical thing. And always, when your business isn't succeeding, saying, okay, it would succeed if we just focused on this feature. And there's a grain of truth in that, of course. But really, that's not the thing. It should be refining what you have and making that better. So we are good. I would say if I'm good at one thing, it is recognizing that, yes, that would be cool, but it's not the priority right now. And prioritization is prioritization. So possibly a way you could do this is you can sit down with yourself and write down what are the priorities. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then possibly you have a calendar or you have a to-do list or something like that, and go back through your last month and ask yourself, what proportion of the time in the last month did I spend working on things which match those priorities? And you'll be frightened. It will be very little.
Yeah.
So that is a forcing function to make yourself focus on the priorities is a thing. There's a book called The One Thing about forcing yourself to focus on a priority. Very good.
Okay. One Thing, do you know the author?
I don't.
Okay,
I don't,
well,
I'm sorry.
we'll just say One Thing. Yeah.
The One Thing is the name of the book. It's a business book. Another cool business book, if anyone is interested, as we're talking about business books, is The Obstacle is the Way. Ryan Holiday.
Okay.
Mandatory reading.
Recommendation. Yeah. What are your favorite KPIs for measuring financial success?
I don't think that I can add an awful lot here, in that I know the KPIs that matter for us, but I don't think that they're relevant for others.
Okay. Obviously, we can talk about your favorite KPIs relevant to your bit of the business then, for customer success. Let's say your favorite customer success KPIs. Okay,
so my favorite customer success KPI is usage of my product. So if you go back to first principles and you say, for a SaaS business, so we sign up customer, and if we sign up one customer every month and none of them go away, then at the end of 12 months, we have 12. At the end of 24 months, we have 24. At the end of 3 years, we have 36, okay? And customers will stay if they're using your product. So that's what matters. And in truth, it's probably the case for all businesses, that thing, which is, and it comes back to are you creating value? If you're creating value, people will use your product. And in the long run, you will be successful if you are creating value.
Great.
And that's hard for me to take because I'm a very sales-orientated person. And normally, I would say to you, sales defines a success. Think of a successful business. Everyone who's listening, think of a successful business. Boom, they're good at sales. They are a successful sales organization. There's no such thing as a successful organization that is not good at selling. Now, think of a successful organization that has bad products. Loads of them. So sales is normally what I think is the most important thing. But the honest truth is, you need a good product as well, because sales is hard.
Yeah,
and a good product eases the way.
Yeah, we had another founder on who said that he likes to think of his business like Gordon Ramsay's restaurant, in the sense that Gordon Ramsay doesn't have a sales team. People just know about him and want to go and dine in his restaurants. Because it's the quality is so good. Would you be in that sort of mind of thinking, or is it a bit of a mix and match because you also need to get in front of the customers that they know you exist, so to speak?
So I think having a good product is critically important. Okay. I think the suggestion that Gordon Ramsay was a success without sales and marketing is to not be realistic as to how Gordon Ramsay got where he got.
Yeah. Okay.
It's sort of like saying Tesla, they don't advertise, so I'm going to start a car company without advertising. That's ridiculous. They advertise nonstop. Their CEO spends the majority of his time as a promotionalist, and he costs them $1 billion a year or something like that. They spend more on advertising, just not in the traditional fashion.
It's the Michael O'Leary style of marketing, Like
exactly. And more power to them. Like, I'm a big Tesla fan. I'm not being critical of Tesla. I'm just saying that the idea that you will open a restaurant down a alleyway and people will magically find out that it's wonderful. I'm sure there's cases of that, but I just don't. I think that you will starve before you will get to success in that way. Ultimately, you do need to have a way of acquiring customers. You do. And that's why you asked me about the dream team. Like, only half of the dream team I mentioned was the savant at building the product.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if you hang around the startup area long enough, you will know you'll know majority failures, right? So most of my friends who have been involved in startups, and I've countless because I've been involved in startups for 16 years. 16 years of startups now. Most of them have, to be gentle, not succeeded, okay? And they're awesome people. They're way more capable. You know, failure is the norm. So you have to accept that you have to be pushing on all the buttons to succeed. It's not a normal state to succeed. It's the exception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have to know that going into it. Great.
Yes.
Thanks very much for coming on. I found it really insightful, and there's definitely a lot of nuggets in there of useful advice and information. I found it really enjoyable. So I hope our viewers did find it the same. And thanks. We'll see you again for another episode of Breaking by Breakfast.